Hi, Between the Chapters Book Club. Admin LJ here, also known as Admin Lauren. I'm super stoked about this panel. You guys, I know I say it a lot, and I know I'm always really excited when I come on here, but I'm truly I've been so excited all day. I've been watching the clock all day, waiting for it to be time to come on, because not only do we have a star-studded lineup coming to our book club today, but we're talking about my favorite subject, romances. You guys know from all of the conversations we've had, I'm a huge romance fanatic. I think I read a new romance book like one a day, one every other day. So I truly cannot get enough of romance. So I'm super stoked to get to have this chat, not only with our star-studded panel, but also with you guys, our readers. I love having you guys join us. You know, I cannot get enough of the conversations you guys help us have. So I am really looking forward to this one. Like always, and you can see me messing with my screen already because I'm so excited. I'm all disorganized, which is not like me. So you can tell I'm really jazzed about this. Anyways, like always, if you leave us a question during our live panel, so that's during this live stream up until 4 p.m. Eastern, you will be entered to win a flash giveaway. And who knows, maybe I'll be extra generous and pull 2 winners. You never know. It's my favorite subject, favorite genre, so maybe I'll just get a little fun with it and I'll give more than one person a chance to win a super awesome book. This time around, I'm going to be sending a winner or winners an advanced copy of a book that is not out yet, is going to be talked about in our book club. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet because you're really going to want it. So I'm just going to leave you with that little teaser. Leave us questions and you'll be entered to win the giveaway, and maybe you'll get a book early. Who knows? Keep an eye out. But also, as always, please join in on the conversation with us. Leave us comments down in that comment section. Myself and one of my fellow admins will be hanging out with you guys down there throughout the course of this hour. So we want to hear your thoughts and responses and answers to some of these questions too. We want you to be part of our conversation. So enough about all of that. You're not here for the housekeeping and the yammering on. You're here for our star-studded panel. I'm so excited. One of our guests, she has been having some tech issues, so please be patient. If she has to jump in and off screen, we're going to do our best to make sure she's here for as much of this conversation as we can. But we're super honored to be joined by Kensington Publishing's own editorial director, also a romance editor extraordinaire, Alicia Condon. I'm so excited to have her on this panel with us. And in addition to Alicia, we have 3 incredible authors coming to hang out with us. We've got a book club favorite, Sabrina Jeffries. She's been here a few times. You love her. I love her. Can't wait to have her back. And then we have 2 debut romance authors who I cannot get enough of. I read their books before the ARCs were in. I got the manuscript super early. Love these 2 ladies so, so much. We're going to be joined by Courtney Kae and Yamile Saied Mendez. These 2 women are incredible, as are Sabrina and Alicia. I am freaking out. I'm so excited to have this conversation with them. So I'm going to bring them on screen now so that you guys can get to say hi to them and get to know them and see why I truly love all 4 of these ladies as much as I do. So please help me welcome them to our book club. Hi, everyone. And I see Alicia's camera is off right now, so hopefully she'll be joining us here in just a few minutes. But hi, everyone. Thank you for coming.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Yes, good to be here.
So I talked a lot and I talked really fast right up at the top. So one of the first things I want is to have everyone introduce themselves and, one of you has a book coming out next week. One of you just had a book come out. One of you has been here for our book club about their book for a few times now. So I want you to all introduce yourselves, talk about your book, let our readers get to know you. So I'm going to toss it over to Sabrina first because she has been to our book club a number of times and I love getting to talk to her.
Does that mean I don't have to say very much?
You don't have to say very much. You can just say hi.
Hi, I write historical romance. My latest book is A Duke for Diana, and it's in the, I started to say the wrong series. It's in the I can't remember the name of my series. How bad is that?
You're totally fine. It is
The
designing.
Designing.
Yes.
I wanted to say debuting debutantes, and I'm like, no, that's not it. I know
You were
that's
close. Designing Debutante
Designing
series.
debutantes. Okay, so that's me.
Yes, thank you, Sabrina. And then I'm going to toss it over to Yamile because your book has been out for a couple of weeks now. So please, I don't know what side I'm on. Please talk to us about you and your book.
Hello, I'm Yamile Saied Mendez, and I'm an author who writes for many age groups. And Twice a Quinceanera is my romance debut. Twice a Quinceanera is a story of Nadia, who is about to get married right before she turns 30 years old. But a month before her wedding, she finds out her fiance has been cheating on her. So she calls off the wedding. The problem is that all the family is coming from all over the world, and there's no return on all the deposits that she made. So she decides to throw herself a double quinceañera. A quinceañera is the traditional coming of age party for a girl who turns 15. So it's a double because it's for her 30th birthday. She hasn't had a quinceañera before. So it's a story with a lot of family drama because the family will find out she's not getting married as they arrive for her party. And while she's dealing with the family, it turns out also that the owner of the venue where she'll hold her party is an old college friend, the one that got away. And so that's it.
Perfect. There are quite a few tropes mentioned in that book that we are definitely going to talk about later in this chat. So thank you for that. And then, Courtney, I'm going to toss it over to you because you have a book coming out next week.
I do. I'm so excited and so happy to be here with you all and celebrate these, both of your amazing books. And The Event of Love comes out next week, August 30th, and it is about an LA event planner named Morgan who, on the cusp of a big scandal, is forced to accept a fundraising gig back in her rustic home mountain town, where she there finds that the owner of the tree farm she's there to save is the girl who broke her heart 7 years ago. So it's basically, if you were to put a Hallmark movie into book form and make it queer and very steamy, it was just very indulgent to write, and I hope it brings readers lots of joy and coziness.
Perfect. I have to say I definitely read In the Event of Love. I think before the final manuscript was even like signed off on. I got to take a little sneak peek at the very early manuscript.
Oh yes.
I can't talk enough about that. Same with Twice a Quinceanera, actually. Both of your books I read in the very early manuscript stages and like just absolutely adored them. I am not really a big rom-com reader, surprisingly for most of my friends. So for you guys to like really get me excited about these rom-coms, like you readers, you want to read them. So, and Sabrina knows how much I adore her books, so I'm not going to bore her with how much I love hers too. So, looks like Alicia is still having a little bit of trouble getting online. So I'm going to go ahead and move us into the actual conversation part. And then if she's able to join us, we'll get her on screen and get her chatting with us as well. So again, readers, I see a number of you are tuning in and watching. Leave questions in the comments. I want to ask your questions while I've got these ladies with me. But in the meantime, I would love, especially because all three of you are in different parts of your writing career. We've really spanned the spectrum here with when it comes to terms with being an author and being a writer. So I want to start off with learning, what does writing mean to you? What does it mean to you to be an author? And I would love to actually start this with Courtney because this is your debut.
I love this question so much. And I think, honestly, writing to me is such an act of self-love. Like, as a writer, you don't know what's going to happen, once you put the book out there or you put your words out there. And I think just sitting down and having the faith in yourself to do the thing that you love is just a big act of self-love and joy. And also this feeling of empowerment. There are lots of things going on in the world that are out of our control. And so sometimes when I sit down, it's almost like this act of rebellion to choose to be happy in a story or create this world that you sometimes wish could exist.
Mhm.
So there are lots of facets to it, but I would say ultimately it's this act of bravery and self-love.
I love that. And I love that you point out that it is something that brings happiness. Like you said, we don't get a lot of that these days. So it's great to have that outlet and that escape. So thank you, Courtney.
Thank you.
Sabrina, I'd like to go over to you next because you've written for quite a while. You've been an author for a number of years. So, especially this far into your career, what does it mean to you to still be writing, to be an author?
Well, when I started writing as Sabrina, I wrote as Deborah Martin, Deborah Nicholas before that. But when I started writing as Sabrina Jeffries, we had moved to North Carolina for my autistic son. Mm-hmm. And he was in puberty and having a really rough time. Writing, people would say, well, how do you write when you have an autistic child? And it's like, that's my salvation. Are you kidding me? I create the world. Mm-hmm. Everything is the way I want it to be. I have no control over my life otherwise. My life is centered around this autistic child. And yeah, I can't wait to get to the computer. Yeah. Actually, as Nick got better, it got a little harder. When I was like, oh, now I can do things like go to movies and stuff. And yeah, so now I have to write for other reasons, mm-hmm. part of which is, paying bills. But other than that, no, I still like stories. I like to watch stories. I like to read stories. I like fiction in all its forms, and I like people's stories in particular. And I like trying to figure out how people tick. And mm-hmm. so for me, I can do that in writing. And I really get in. Once I'm into a book, I am just, I laugh and cry and whatever along with my characters. And as long as that keeps happening, then I should keep writing. The day that it becomes kind of automatic for me, which it hasn't yet, is the day I'm going to retire.
I think that's pretty understandable, but I, for one, am very glad that you're not at that point yet, because we still want your stories. That your answer really, readers who tuned into our staff chat know one of my favorite things about working on books are the stories, and the fact that there are so many stories out there, so many stories waiting to be told. So I love that for you, that is such a big draw, is that there are stories waiting and like everyone needs them. So I love that. And then Yamile, how about you? What does it mean to you to be a writer, to be an author? What is this all about for you?
Well, first of all, I love both answers because mine will be a little bit of both. Although I haven't been published for many years, like Sabrina, I've been a writer all my life. And I think as a very quiet child, the oldest of 4 siblings, writing was a way for me to find my voice. Mm-hmm. I was very reserved outside, like what people could see, but inside I had this super rich inner life. And as I grew up and I became braver and braver, I just enjoyed being able to tell my stories. For a while, writing was also like a form of therapy. Mm-hmm. And then it evolved into the way in which I process the world, the things that happen around me. I can't, like Sabrina said, I can't control what happens in my life sometimes, or I have children and their lives are so rich, but I can always control what happens in the books that I write.
Mhm.
And also, like Courtney says, I feel like writing stories where people of color, especially, have their happily ever afters is a revolutionary action, because we don't see that a lot. We just sometimes we see the drama or the challenges, but I think love and happiness and finding that joy in everyday life is revolutionary. So I it's the way that I provide, that I witness what happens in the world, that what how I process, and how I can also add my 2 cents. I believe that words are powerful and stories are
Mhm.
powerful. That we need those stories to escape the world sometimes. Sometimes know how to deal with situations, and so I feel like I have the best job in the world, that I get to create the stories.
I I have to say, all three of you gave answers that like made me a little teary-eyed and like just reminded me of like how much I love working on books like this. Like all three of you really touched something. I'm like, okay, I can't cry live on camera, but you got me close on that one. That was a great answer. So thank you for sharing that. I just want to update everyone on the panel and our readers who are tuning in. Alicia is having like extreme technical issues. You gotta love it in this day and age. We all experience it. So we're gonna do a follow-up chat with her down the road. So don't worry, if you had questions for Alicia, we will get her back in the book club to chat with everyone. So just wanted to give a little update. But that being said, all of your questions again made me real emotional, so I'm trying to reorient my brain now in real time. But I loved that all of you, like I said, all of you had kind of the same crux of an answer, that it is something that provides escape and it provides happiness and it gives people a chance to experience and also tell and share stories that they may not otherwise get to see or really know about. And that's one of the things that as a reader, I really love about romance novels in particular. All three of your answers had a little touch of it brings happiness. It makes you happy. It makes you feel something. And for me, that's what romance novels are all about. And I know, especially in these days, a lot of people can be pretty negative about romance novels or have preconceived notions about what a romance novel is or what you get out of it. So I would just love to spend a little time talking about what is, to you, when you hear romance novels, what do you think of? What does it mean to you that you write these romance novels? And I'd like to start with Yamile, because you do write in different areas and different genres. So I'd love to have you start us off.
I think that romance is in every story that has ever been told, even if it's not, like that romantic love between people. I mean, I'm all about relationships, friends, siblings, even enemies that
Mhm.
can become lovers. I think that's why we're alive, to have relationships with people. And
Mhm.
I love that in romance novels, especially, there is that promise of a happily ever after at the end. And even, like, and then we can imagine the characters, yes, having challenges perhaps in the future, but when we left them, they were still happy and the story was tied up in a neat
Mhm.
knot. So that's what I think. It always gives me like a light feeling. Some romance, I mean, there's such a big spectrum of what a romance can be. But I feel like at the end, knowing that we'll be safe in the knowledge that the characters are gonna be happy, that's a comfort for me.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. I need that guarantee at the end, or the world is too chaotic otherwise.
Yes.
Sabrina, how about for you? What do you think of when you hear romance novels? What do romance novels mean to you?
Um, it's I don't have any kind of, I mean, it's my whole life. So it's been my whole life since I started reading romance novels when I was about 11 or 12, something like that. So I've been reading them a long, long time. But I went through the period where I went to grad school, and And, you know, of course, the more negative the book, the more likely they wanted you to read it. And in the evenings, I was reading Jane Austen and occasionally romance novels, and because that was the only thing that kept me sane. And but it was so. I'm always being told, you know, I was always being told by academics and people who read, you know, serious literature,
Right.
that you know, it's not true to real life. It's not real life. And I thought, well, I don't know what your real life is like. My real life is, I've been married 38 years, so that's my real life. And the fact of the matter is, our lives are about love. They all are. We have someone we love. It may not even be a romantic partner. It may be a parent who we're taking care of, or a child we love beyond all reason, or a friend that has been our closest friend forever. Those, as Yamile said, it's relationships are what I don't know if people feel two different ways about Love Actually, the movie. I love the movie Love Actually, but when they start at the very beginning, they say that bit about the people who were the last things people said. It always makes me tear up. The last things that people said when the towers were going down, when they were on the plane, was messages of "I love you, I love you," you know, and I think that really is, when it comes down to that last minute and we have 1 minute left, that's what we talk about, because that is what fuels the world. It really does. Even if you're a crusader, it's your love for your fellow man. There's always that is most important to us. So I don't have any problem with romance novels. I just figure it's talking about love, and a lot of the books have more than one relationship. They have the romantic relationship, and they also have parental relationships and sibling and friend relationships and all of those. So that's why I will probably only ever write romance novels. I guess it could change, but that's what I like.
No, and I love that. I love that both you and Yamile both talked about how there's more than one type of love, that it's not just always a romantic partner. And I know from reading Courtney's book that's probably going to be part of her answer too. So I'm not going to go off too long on this, but I did also just want to really quickly say, that's amazing that you and your husband have been together for 38 years. That congratulations. Not many people can say that.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I'm going to jump over to Courtney before I steal all the thunder and I think touch on a lot of the things that she was going to say.
No, I love that. I needed a breather I'm seriously tearing up there. Romance is just, as a genre, is just so important. And I think it really examines, all relationships in our life and how we can heal and overcome. And especially for me as a romance reader and someone I deal with anxiety, depression, OCD. And so stepping into a romance book is this feeling of safety. The structure is so good for my brain. And I think that's why I also love writing it, because you're getting, it's like a pillow fort. I mean, you deal with hard things just like you deal with in life, but there's always going to be this happy ending and this resolution. And it really sometimes makes me feel very seen. And also, you can have hard times, but also have hope. And I think that's ultimately what romance novels give to me. And I can't imagine not having them. They have given me so much in my life personally. I don't know. As a reader, sometimes when I'm reading, they just feel like they're surrounding me, with these stories and this comfort, and the author's heart. You can just feel them talking to you sometimes, and giving you these affirmations. And I just love them so much.
I 100% agree. And as someone who also has very high functioning ADHD, anxiety, that is 100% why I read as many romances as I do around the clock. Is I know a lot of people out there like to say, well, it's so formulaic. You always know what's going to happen. And yeah, that's what I like. I like that I know what's going to happen. I just don't know how we're going to get there.
Right.
So I love that. And I didn't expect this chat to make everyone so emotional, but I think like romances in general, I think everyone who loves and enjoys, and especially I would guess people who write romance, you're just very in tune with emotion and you're very open with emotion. So apologies to any readers if you're also going to start crying at work. Not my intention, but I mean, I'm crying while working right now, so we're just going to all be in this emotional little bubble together. Because I am going to now ask a reader question that there's a 50-50 shot someone is going to make me cry with their answer. It happens almost every time. So this reader is wondering, who inspires you to write? Who is your inspiration? So let's start with Sabrina on this one.
Oh, don't start with me because I'm thinking about it.
All right, I won't force you to start. If someone has an answer and they want to go first.
I know most people are going to say members of their family, and I guess that is also true. My husband is very supportive of what I do, but my son can't articulate his world, and so he inspires me in that respect. It's like I can speak for him. I spend about half my life speaking for him because he's non-speaking. And so he inspires me, but really it's my readers who inspire me the most. I've had so many readers who say things like, you got me through this surgery, or your books are romance books, not even mine specifically, got me through the death of my husband, or, we write for those reasons because somewhere way back, somebody got us through hard things with their stories. And so now we just want to pay it forward. I mean, I don't know how I would have survived my childhood without, I didn't have a bad childhood, but I lived overseas and I didn't, and there was a period of about 2 years where we lived in the boonies in Thailand, and it was us. I didn't speak Thai. We had just moved there, and I would have gone crazy as someone who's ADD and needs lots of entertainment. But books, that was it. I read all the time. Everybody who knew me then said, your nose was always in a book. It's like, yeah, because that's how I survived. So yeah, I want to do that for people who feel the same way.
I think that's a great answer. And the only reason the first part of your answer didn't make me cry this time is because I cried the last time you told me that. So managed to hold it together this time. Courtney, let's jump over to you. Who inspires you to write?
Definitely my daughter. I want her to see that even though something might be scary, we can still do hard things. Like sometimes it's really scary to put my work out there for me, or it's scary to start a manuscript because I'm constantly dealing with like self-doubt. Can I finish this? Can I even do this? And finishing and getting to the end is this huge feeling of take that, right. To all my self-doubt and all those difficult thoughts. I think I find the joy in writing when those thoughts become silent and I just get so into the story. But then finishing is a huge deal for me. And so I want to set that example for her. And also, like Sabrina said, I've already gotten early messages from people, and I'm trying not to cry, but that, the moral of the story is you are enough. And so I have already gotten messages from people saying that they needed to hear that, and they needed that in this moment in their life. And to see representation in a cozy holiday story like this for the queer community is also a huge inspiration for why I wrote it. And so to receive those messages is just, I can't even really put it into words. It's inspiring.
I think you put it into words perfectly. So thank you for that. And then Yamile, how about for you? Who inspires you?
Well, like they said, my readers, my
Mhm.
children, especially my daughters. But I will also say the young girl that I once was that had these dreams and would get up early to learn English first. My first language is Spanish. I was born and raised in Argentina. I came to the US as a student, and I have met so many little immigrant girls who love books, and books are that first bridge into a new life. And they don't know that they can become an author. When I was little, I grew up in Argentina. We have a very rich tradition of children literature, especially. But I had never met an author in person, one that was like me. And so when I see my young readers, especially, um, they inspire me because I once was them, and all these dreams that I had, this dream life that I thought about, I'm living it now. So if when things get tough, I think about all those hopes that I had, and I can't let that little girl down, and I keep going.
That's perfect. I'm like sitting here like, okay, don't get emotional, but I really am, because like I think for me, especially as a lifelong reader, there's something truly special about knowing that authors write for us. That's not worded correctly. But I think, especially for me who works in publishing, there are times when you're in the business world on the other side of things where you just start to think it's just business. People are selling, people are trying to buy a book, you're trying to sell a book. So it's always refreshing and really uplifting to know that there are authors and there are people out there who their goal is to write these stories for people who need them and want to see themselves. So thank you all. Like that really, all of you had great answers. And I'm going to try to like not make this the super emotional hour. So we're going to keep moving now. We had a reader question come in that I don't think is going to make me emotional, other than it will make me really want to start a debate, because I am me and that's how I grew up, was to be on a debate team and argue with people. But I'm going to try to hold it in, because this reader is curious about tropes. Do you have a favorite trope, either as a reader or as a writer? I know for me as a reader, I have my tropes that I absolutely will read every single version of, and I have ones that I will not go near with a 10-foot pole. So I'm curious, what is your favorite trope? And do is it the same for you as a reader and a writer, or do you have different ones for each side of you? And who do I want to pick on? I think I'm going to make Courtney answer first.
I'm ready. Okay, as a reader, my favorite trope, okay, whatever trope lends itself best to yearning, like just the angst and so any kind of like rival to lovers or any unresolved conflict. Oh, I eat it up. And I personally love like steam in my novels, so it just makes the steamy part like all the better when you've worked so hard to get there. And just I love when they start to see each other in different ways. I'm just obsessed with that. So yeah, enemies to lovers, rivals to lovers, all of those. As a writer, it's probably obvious that I love writing second chance romance or friends to lovers. I love being able to dig into past memories and then being able to see them in a different way. So I like tropes that lend to having that backstory.
Mm-hmm. I think that's really great. And like you said, that does add those little layers that just kind of build on top of each other. Gotta say, I'm also a huge enemies to lovers like you said, it just makes, like, if you're a steamy romance reader, it just makes it all the better when you get there.
Yeah, you earned it.
So 100%.
Hotter.
Exactly. I'm trying to be somewhat professional while I'm on air, and my bosses might see this, but I'm like, it just makes it better. All right, so Sabrina, how about you next? Do you have a favorite trope, and do you have the same favorite as both a reader and a writer?
Well, usually whatever I like best as a reader is what I like to write about as a writer. I don't really have a dichotomy, but I also you usually have that one story that you always wanted to tell that's not your norm or something. So I have those two. My favorites are Beauty and the Beast. I like Beauty and the Beast because the beast we always discover is not really a beast. He may be a beast in one way or another, but really it's like a wounded animal that just needs some love and nurturing to not be wounded anymore. And so I really like those. And although I've not done it in reverse, I haven't tried to do a woman who is the beast. I don't know why, I just never have. But I would say and I like enemies to love. Enemies to lovers is a lot easier to write because they just spark off each other, and so some of my favorites are those. But I also do like friends to lovers because when I was in high school, I dated guys that I'd grown up with because I went to a very small international high school, and that became people I fell in love with after years of thinking I knew who they were, but I didn't really know who they were. So I like that sometimes too. I'm trying to think of, I'll tell you what not real keen on is the Cinderella.
Interesting.
I just don't, I don't want the guy saving the woman. I don't know if it's the feminist in me or what, but I just don't, that's not one of my favorites, but a lot of readers really like it. So I try to be aware of that, but it's not my favorite. I don't know what else. What are the other ones? There's lots of them, and
I say there's a trope for everything.
Yeah, some of them are plot tropes, though. Like arranged marriage is more of a plot device,
right?
And then some of them are more character tropes, and so it kind of depends. And you can mix and match. You could have an arranged marriage between a Beauty and a Beast, and that there you go. You got two of your tropes.
To say you just ticked off a number of my boxes on that, just throwing that together. I am going to have to take that little soundbite of you describing why Beauty and the Beast is such a great romance trope so that I can start playing that for all of my friends who make fun of me for how many iterations of that story I read. It is my absolute top favorite, and you just worded it perfectly as to why. All right, and then Yamile, how about you? What is your favorite romance trope, and do you have a different one as a reader and a writer?
Well, I think because Persuasion is my very favorite Jane Austen novel, I just gravitate towards that second chance romance. Even in my young adult, I feel like sometimes love and the right person can arrive at the worst time in your life because of circumstances or because you're not prepared for that love. And then I just love the idea that life will give you that chance with that great love in the future when you have matured, when you know what you want, or the other person has matured and they know what they want. So I do love the second chance romance, and I do love the friends to lovers when there's obstacles in the way that make it hard for them to be together. And so I think that's what I like to write, and I like to read a lot. I love the arranged marriages because it offers, that opportunity to fall in love with the characters, and I love the forced proximity, when they have to be together in the same situations against their will, but that's like the perfect grounds for them to mature, for the relationship to sparkle. And I feel like I love to, not in the terms of tropes, but different situations of how tropes are used in romance. I love to read historical romances, but I don't write them. I write contemporary, but I just feel that it's just fresh to see them in a different perspective. And it's funny how I love fantasy, but I don't write fantasy.
Right. Which is understandable. I do want to give a little shout out. My co-admin who's helping me hang out in the comment section, her favorite is also Persuasion. So she was super stoked that you said that was your favorite one. So just had to give that little shout out. But yeah, you guys named all of my favorite tropes. So like, I'm pretty happy about that. And it makes sense why I loved all of your books, because very much in line with what I read. So loved that. I want to jump over. We've got another reader question. I'm going to watching our clock so that we don't run out of time, because we had a couple come in that are pretty fun. This reader is wondering if you ever see, do you see aspects of yourself in the characters that you write? And especially, Yamile and Courtney, these are new books for you. So definitely interested in whether or not you put a little bit of yourself in your characters. And then Sabrina, you've been doing this for a while, but do you still see yourself in your characters? So I'm going to start with Yamile on this one.
Okay, so I mean, obviously, Nadia and I share a heritage. We're both immigrants from Argentina, kind of a different situation because she was younger when she arrived in this country. So, of course, I put a lot of myself in the sense of the expectations the parents have for her, and that drive to be perfect. Even though the parents never really told her, she just put that upon herself. But I'm an older daughter, an older sister, and Nadia is the younger. So that gives a little bit of freedom to be more herself, and at the same time, being the younger sister now, she has to check the things that her sister didn't get to accomplish, so that their parents can be happy. And I feel like I put myself a little bit of myself in all of the characters, even those who are maybe more villainous, because they all come from me, or they come from people that I see in the world. And it's just, that's the funnest part of being an author, in my opinion, that sometimes readers think that we authors are reflected more in our heroes or heroines, but I like to put myself in the background, like a little cameo.
I was about to say, I if I were to ever write, which I've told book club many a times, I don't have the skills, patience, or ability to do so. But were I to do so, 100%, I would go in the villain slot. Like, you just got to embrace those bad, negative sides every once in a while. But I do also want to say, like, the need to be perfect and that drive to like be spot on all the time, that Nadia, like, really, we have a one-on-one chat with you next week. That will be one of the conversations we have, because 100%. All right, so thank you for that answer. And then Sabrina, let's jump over to you, because you have so many books under your belt. Do you still see a little bit of yourself in your characters? Do you put yourself in your characters?
I put a lot of myself into characters, and I'm never really sure which character I am. Like, with some books, it's more the hero, and other books more the heroine. And sometimes it's a different aspect of myself. For Study of Seduction, which is, I realize, not one of y'all's books, I guess I should mention.
That's okay. You can talk about your other books.
But the hero was very much my husband, which I don't usually base my heroes on my husband, but he's very, very much my husband, and to the extent that I read him a portion and said, "Who does that sound like?" And he started laughing, and he went, "Me." I said, yep. But
Love it.
the heroine was foreign to me because she was a rape survivor. That's a spoiler. I shouldn't say that. But I have never had that experience. So I was basing it on, what I thought with, and I had done some reading and stuff. It wasn't that I just launched in blind, but I had always wanted to deal with that. And so she ended up being me the way I thought I would be if that happened to me. Right. Because I get very tired of hearing about people who always react the same way to a certain stimuli, because they don't. Everybody has a different response, and some of them it's just different for everyone. And I mean, my siblings and I growing up abroad, my youngest brother was born in Thailand, and so he's very much more in tune to Thai culture than any of the rest of us. Whereas I was 7 when we went to Thailand, and I was excited about it because I always liked an adventure. Even when I was 7, I was like, yeah, an adventure, yay.
Right.
But I missed my grandparents a lot, which, he didn't know my grandparents. He didn't meet them until he was 4. So we have different, just the age you are when things happen to you makes a difference. And so I like to play around with things and go, what if this had happened instead of that in my life? Or what if my mother had this instead of this? And things like, I like to play with it because it's always interesting to me that people are different in different situations. I like to think good people are always good people in those situations, but I don't know. Would I kill my abuser? I might. I don't know. So that's just, I know that took a dark turn, didn't it? Sorry.
You're perfectly fine. No, I love that. I love that for you, these characters are often a way to explore different sides of you and explore different scenarios and situations that, you don't have under your belt and hopefully won't have under your belt. So I do love that. And I really love that you had your husband show up in some of your work too. That's always so, I love hearing those little behind the scenes tidbits. All right. And then we're going to hop over to Courtney. Do you see some of yourself in your characters, especially with this being, your debut romance?
Embarrassingly, I think there's probably too much of myself in my book. And I don't really notice it. I don't really notice until I read back through. But I think it's just part of the nature of the work for me. Like I really have to dig deep. Like every character has a certain misbelief. And for example, Morgan's is that she needs to prove herself to earn love, or be perfect to earn love. Whereas she has to go through this journey to learn that she's enough just as she is. So all those feelings, that I think each of us can experience in different ways, definitely come out as I'm writing. And also I deal with planning events for my day job. So that was fun to go ahead and take certain experiences and kind of dig into, okay, what could be like a plot obstacle here, and knowing what could come up with events, those X factors, that was really fun. And also dealing with, in our society, the space that we create as far as like productivity equals value, which is so false, but I really wanted to explore that because I think that's something that I can feel a lot of the time. So yeah, there's definitely, I think, too much of me in there, to be honest.
I don't think there's such a thing as too much of you in the book. I do say I hope that what happens in the book does not happen to you in your day job. Hopefully that catalyst is not inspired by real life.
Not to that extent, no way.
Okay, perfect. That's all. We just had to make sure. Those are all great answers. So thank you, ladies. I've got another reader question, and this one's pretty fun. I'm always curious about this myself, so I'm glad this reader asked it. They preface that they are also always curious about, when writers talk about characters who don't follow the path that they had originally planned and outlined for them while writing. So they're curious if that's ever happened to you, and can you tell us a little bit about what that was like for you? And I feel like I've got to go to Courtney because she's really losing it over there.
I'm dying over that question because I'm literally in the middle of that right now with book 2.
Perfect. Love it.
But literally had to strip it down to the studs and reworking it right now because it just went in a whole different direction. And it's turning out to be a much better book than I had anticipated. So I am very happy. It's almost like a blessing in disguise when the character does that to you. And usually it's because there's something like in your gut as a writer that's like gut checking you. Maybe this plot point isn't right. Something feels off here. And usually like all these new ideas will start coming up. That, at least for me, that's how it works. And it means that something in the story needs to change.
I have to say that wasn't planned for me to ask that question while you're experiencing it, but just like the characters knew, the universe knew that I had to throw it out there for that reader. So
I feel so seen.
I have to jump in on this one because I'm not a character-driven author. So when I start my book, I don't really know my characters. I know my plot. And that's a little difficult because the characters in the plot at some point have to be married, they have to be together in line with each other. And so when I first start writing, I've got my plot, I've figured out my plot. I see it as like the bones that the flesh is hung on, but I don't know the character at all. And I've gotten better about it, but I will start out with, with a very mechanical MO. It's like, motivation. It's like she does X because of this in her childhood. It's usually a very boring kind of motivation, but that's what I've got in my head. And as I wrote, she starts telling me things like, yeah, no, that's not why. What are you talking about? That didn't happen to me. It was this, and then I'm going, oh. And I remember one time I was halfway through a book and my brother called me just, to chat and everything. And he said, you sound really happy today. And I said, my hero finally showed up. I'm halfway through the book and he finally showed up and I know who he is. And he went, you know that you make these up. And I went, oh, you have no idea what you're talking about.
So he just doesn't understand.
I do not make these up. They show up. And so, that's a big one for me. My characters are always changing because they're never going to be what I planned.
I both love that, and it also stresses me out for you in equal measure.
It's very stressful.
All right, and then Yamile, how about you? Have you ever had a character like just totally throw you a curveball?
All the time, and not only my main characters. I was working on a story and I had a secondary character that turned out to be one of the bad guys, but I had to find that motivation and I didn't know. I knew it happened a certain way, but Sabrina, that's just the best feeling when you find that and they tell you and you get to know them and you're like, okay, this is why. Even if it never makes it like completely onto the page, just knowing gives you all these clues onto what should happen next. And that's always the best, because for me, I know that if I'm forcing myself to keep on going with the story, but I just don't feel it. It's like I'm disconnected from the main source of inspiration. I know there's something missing, and I just love when I get it back. And if I just know why they do the things they do, then I think I can follow them to the end of the story.
What she said.
Yeah, one of the things I love, because like I said, I've worked in publishing now for a number of years, but I've also been a lifelong reader, and particularly a lifelong romance reader for far longer than I think my parents would really like to know. But I've always been able to tell with certain authors, you can always see the moment that a character, usually a side character, just kind of pops out of the woodwork and you go, I don't think that was your original plan, but it makes it so much better. Like that's, for me, that's one of my favorite moments as a reader, is when I go, this side character in particular, I don't think you originally intended this, but it just builds so well. So I'm glad to hear that it's kind of a universal moment, that sometimes those characters just are going to be unruly and you just kind of have to flow with it.
Yes, absolutely.
So we have a couple of minutes left. I have many questions prepared, but I promised that I would only take an hour of your time. So maybe we got at least one more question. We may get to two. We'll see what happens. But we've got a reader question that I don't always ask. Readers always want to know. I don't always ask because not a lot of times authors are not allowed to answer. But if you are able to answer, this reader is wondering, what are you working on currently? Can you give us a little hint about a current project or an upcoming project? If you're not allowed to answer, you can say so and we'll pass. So, Courtney, I actually want you to go first, since you already mentioned that you were literally in the middle of working on your book right now.
Yeah, I'm working on book 2 in the Fern Fall series that'll come out next summer. And it's called In the Case of Heartbreak, and it follows a side character in book 1 named Ben. And he goes on this big adventure that leads him to his grandmother's house, where he has this forced proximity situation with his unrequited love that maybe he finds out isn't so unrequited. So I'm having a lot of fun with it, despite, the trials Ben is putting me through. I really love him, and he's a cinnamon roll, and I hope that readers are happy with it. But I am definitely enjoying it.
Yeah, readers, I can tell you, Ben is absolutely a cinnamon roll. And the second Courtney's editor mentioned this project, I immediately texted the editor. I was like, so manuscript when? Because I need it. So everyone's in for a treat on that one.
Thank you.
And then, Yamile, how about you? Are you working on anything currently? And if so, can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes, well, I haven't been told that I can say anything about it, but I'm going to keep the title to myself because we haven't revealed it. But I would just say that my next story is about Mari, one of Nadia's best friends. She is a yoga teacher. She believes in soulmates. So that should give you some clues.
Mm-hmm.
Set in Puerto Rico. My husband's from Puerto Rico, and that's like my dream place where I escape to in my mind if I can get to, as often as I would like. So more than a love letter to soulmates, it's my love letter to Puerto Rico and all the things I love about it.
Yeah, and again, your editor also mentioned what the book was going to be about to me. So I'm besties with all the editors, being in a small house. And all she had to tell me was, she literally only texted me, book 2, soulmates. And I immediately freaked out. So I'm ready. All right, Sabrina, how about you? You are always busy. So what are you working on?
Well, first of all, I just have to say to Yamile, my sister-in-law is from Puerto Rico.
Cool.
And my brother and she go home to her home every Christmas. It used to drive my mother crazy. It's like, you should trade off. Like, but he was like, okay, let me see. Winter in Richmond, Virginia, winter in Puerto Rico. Which one? It's so hard to choose,
There's nothing like a Puerto Rico Christmas. I will tell you.
One day I have to go because it sounds like a paradise. But anyway, yeah, I'm doing this, the Designing Debutantes. See, I do know the name of my series.
You got it.
The Designing Debutantes, they're 3 sisters who are, that were scandalously kind of kicked out of society. Not for any of their own reason. But anyway, The second book I already turned in. That one's coming out next April, and that's Eliza's book. Diana's was first, Eliza's second. And then Verity is the one everybody seems to be waiting for because she's just really interesting. And now I'm feeling the weight of that pressure. I'm like, I have to give her a good book and plumb her depths or something. So that is the one that I'm actually trying to plot right now. And it's taken me a while because my husband just had rotator cuff surgery and Nick moved back home. And so it's been kind of a wild summer, but I'm getting there.
And say you are always busy.
Yeah, I am. And partly my own fault most of the time, but I do have the most supportive husband in the world and the most helpful. Nick doesn't speak, but he tries to help. So his parents are getting older and it's like, Nick, will you carry this up the stairs? Oh yeah, he's 33. Sure, he'll carry anything up the stairs. So, anyway, so that's what's next for me. And
I mean, I know everyone is excited for the third sister, the third book. I mean, and I am, but I am also super ready for book 2. Eliza is going to be so much fun.
I had fun with it, I have to say. She was just harder to write, I think, because she was a quieter person.
Which is why I was excited about her.
Yes. As you know, I'm not a quiet person, so I have to get into that spooky. It's hard.
See, and readers are going to call me all types of a liar, but I am a very quiet person. So I always love a quiet heroine. And I know all of our readers who are watching right now are like, Lauren, you run every single chat. You are never quiet. But I really am in real life. So I'm always ready for a quiet heroine. I am not wanting to end this chat, but I've already kept you guys a couple minutes over our hour. So I have to let you go as much as I don't want to, because this was so much fun. But ladies, thank you so much for joining our book club. And to the readers who are watching and still watching, thank you guys so much. Your questions were awesome. You guys were so much fun in the comments. We really appreciate you taking part in our romance panel.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
And to all of our readers, we have multiple live chats happening next week, one of which is with Yamile. So if you want to come chat with her one-on-one with one of our admins, make sure you come do so. Courtney is going to be hanging out with us closer to the holidays as well. So we've got lots planned for you. So make sure you keep your eyes on our page. We'll be announcing all of those soon. So thank you again, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.